What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy DD Don, and once again, I am back with another video for you guys. So, by the title of this video, it's kind of a clickbaity title, I'm not gonna lie, but I had this rolling around in my head when I was at my wage slave job earlier today. So, as I do, I ponder in my thoughts and I just think about things in my past and things that I've experienced in my life. And something came to mind when I was thinking about some of the conventions I plan on attending later on in the next year. I started thinking about, nerds and how they're viewed in media. I started thinking about how stereotypically, nerds, Poindexters, geeks are looked at as usually the bottom of the totem pole, especially when it comes to dating. Maybe not necessarily academics or STEM majors, but for, attractiveness slash, respect slash relationships with women, they're not really known for being the biggest pullers. In fact, it's the biggest stereotype that they're actually, in fact, the opposite of that they actually can't get laid at all. And, I just wanted to come up with the claims that nerds can't get laid. And, there's a few reasons why people believe this to be the case, and I will give my own opinion at the very end of this video. Now, to give a little bit of background about myself, I am in my early 20s, and I am a big fan of anime and video games. My favorite video games include Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Mortal Kombat 1, and Dead by Daylight. I lost my virginity at 14, however, so I am not an incel, but I have not had any long-term relationships. I have a high school education, and I work minimum wage at the moment. So this is my own personal opinion with no real statistical evidence. This is just a spitball argumentative essay. Now, one of the first reasons why people don't believe that nerds can get laid is the movie stereotypes. For example, Revenge of the Nerds. So when viewing these movies and any TV shows where nerds are portrayed, you could also look at Carlton. You could look at, or I would guess Carlton wouldn't be the best example. I think a better example would be the black nerd. When I do that, sorry, I forgot his name right now. But, just based off the way that media portrays them, they're usually similar and have the, traits that are undesirable to most people. They usually have somewhat of an overbite, buck teeth look, huge thick glasses, their clothes are kind of on the older geriatric side. They usually don't appeal to the masculine image that most other Hollywood movies try to portray more attractive men as. And, this can definitely be put as an example of why the nerds don't get laid, but this is strictly just off movies and shows alone, and what images they try to portray, just like with any other, stereotype, whether that be with a racial stereotype or et cetera, et cetera. But this does not necessarily mean that every nerd has to engage in this type of appearance just because they enjoy anime here and there, or maybe a Marvel DC comic book. Now, another reason why nerds are looked at as less desirable compared to other men that might be out on the dating market is that most medias that are consumed by nerds are forms of escapism, and they're using them as forms of escapism for a reason. Usually because it's their only outlet and they cannot socialize or get any other women to socialize with them, so they have to resort to going back into their hut and watching Walking Dead for hours on end or playing video games and stuff of that nature. Now, my problem with this one is there really isn't anything that isn't a form of escapism in reality. Even if there's athletic people that, have strong jawlines and are super buff and tall, they're also participating in forms of escapism, whether that be watching the sports team that they like or watching any other, forms of media, whether that be a podcast talking about the upcoming sport or any other car medias. There's always forms of escapism for everybody in this world. They're just not necessarily going to be the same exact thing. People have different interests. People have different things that they gravitate towards. People have different things that they identify as. It doesn't necessarily mean just because someone likes Harry Potter a lot more than they like, politics, doesn't mean that they're necessarily, always going to be unattractive to most people. And then thirdly, usually for people, when they believe that nerds don't get laid, is because nerds are genetically inferior to other men or have a worse appearance. Now, this is kind of where my conclusion comes in, and this is going to be kind of a doomer, but also a wholesome outlook on this whole point. So, in my opinion, when it comes to getting laid, there are only a few things that matter. That is attractiveness, presentation, and personality. Now, being being a nerd and being unattractive are not mutually exclusive. Exclusive. So, for example, the left-wing political icon Hasanabi is definitely nerdy. In fact, that's his main shtick, to come off as a round glasses wearing leftist cuck. However, most women and most people would agree with me on this. When they give their opinions on him on the internet, they definitely open up on how they feel that he's attractive. So to me, this is the biggest rebuttal out of all these pieces of evidence that being a nerd does not get you laid. In fact, that is minimal in the parts of being able to get laid. What really matters is looks, height, and personality. Very last. Money and status as well. But we're just talking about getting laid here. We're not talking about relationships. Now, some people might be wondering, why bring this issue up? Why bring up the question if nerds can or cannot get laid? Well, bring it back to earlier when my thought process was on this topic. It was just on the simple fact of, I remember times where I had felt like I needed to change who I was in order to get a certain result out of life. I felt like I had to abandon certain things that were inherently a part of me due to the fact that I thought it would lessen my social value or value when it comes to women. And then I realized something. I've lived a pretty good damn life just doing what I would like to do. Sure, have I acted like something I wasn't a few times to try to get approval or validation from other people? Of course. But due to doing that, I've learned the difference between authentic and inauthentic self. And I want to let anybody know out there that might be similar to me, that is young out there, that is ashamed of what they may or may not like, to tell anybody that, oh, I'm truly like this, but you're just smoking weed to fit in or doing something else that's outside of your comfort zone to fit in. I want to let you know that live your life to the fullest, because whatever you like is what you like, and that's what you have to do. Anything other than that is simply going to take you on a path that is not for you. It might be negative. It might be not so bad, but for the most part, when you go against the grain like that, you're going against your own intuitions. And that's not going to get you laid. I'm telling you that right now. You deciding that, oh, yeah, I'm just going to smoke more weed now and hang around these people a lot more. So that's, and I see girls around them, so now the girls are going to like weed. That's not how it works. How it's going to work is the girls that like you are going to find you. No amount of clothes, no amount of frame, no amount of mimicking mannerisms is going to make a certain girl like you. You have to live yourself to the fullest. Even if it may seem like this guy and this guy does it, so that's why it works for him. In reality, it only works for him because he is that way. You have to keep doing what you like to do because it is you. And inherently, most of us are going to fall in victim to wanting to fit in and wanting to be something that we're not, at least one point in our lives. But I hope to deter any, like I said, young men out there that feel like they don't fit in a box and should try to change who they are. I'm here to let you know that if you weren't meant to get laid, you weren't going to get laid anyway. It has nothing to do with your hobbies or what type of media you consume. It has everything to do with your attractiveness, your height, your personality, and or money and status. Now, that's where I was talking about the little bit mix of a doomer mentality and a wholesome mentality, because at the end of the day, that's how life is. You're born the way you are, and you have the cards you're dealt. And if you weren't meant to get laid, it simply won't happen unless you try and try again. Work on your appearance as much as you can. If you're fat, lose weight. If you have bad acne, get some skincare. But other than that, if your genetics are a little bit hard on the eyes for most people, that's just how it's going to be. But you know what? It's still possible to get laid, because I've done it, and I know it's possible. And I'm definitely not an attractive guy. I'm 5'5". My face is definitely not attractive. The only thing I got going for me is I'm light-skinned. Other than that, life is what you make it. Anything is possible, but definitely live your truest self and don't conform to anybody's expectations of you. Live your life for you. This is TD Tone, and I hope you guys have a good one. Peace.